Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this finally Monday. Not really. It is Monday, but not finally, right? If only that weekend could extend longer. Let's see, April 17th, 2023. It's about noon, straight up noon right now here along the West Coast in the state of California. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe looks like a 3.8 into the region of Puerto Rico. It has been pretty active in this area recently. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on down here across the Puerto Rico area as we're looking at the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. Looks like they did have a 4.5 a couple hours ago here, about 10 o'clock or so my time, into the Dominican Republic, with a little further activity here along the Puerto Rico Trench. Looks like we had a 3.8 and a 3.0 within the last hour. And of course, the swarming out here is continuing around the southwestern edge of the Puerto Rico mainland area. Into the Texas area, they did see a 3.6 here within the last hour in a swarm fashion out here around the Pecos, Texas area. Of course, this region is highly populated with not people, but oil pumping operations and wastewater disposal wells. Quite a few of these ponds out here across the Texas desert. And I guess this is some type of huge solar farm out here in this area of Texas as well. I was wondering what it was, but now we know. All right, let's see what else we have. Moving on towards the west coast, where we got things kind of lighten up out here. A little bit of offshore activity here off of the Santa Rosa Island fault. This area did see a couple smaller earthquakes, a 2.2 and a 3.6, it looks like, just after midnight. There's a couple different fault systems that run out here. Sometimes we do see some deeper movement faults. A couple different thrust faults down here off the coast of San Diego. But overall, it looks like the activity is associated with the Santa Rosa Island fault. And this little fault system here that runs off the coast, the Malibu Coast Fault. That area seen a small earthquake yesterday, 1.7. Into, let's see what we got here, 2.6. Off of the San Jacinto fault zone, a little activity today as well. Also north of El Centro, off of the Imperial fault, seen a 1.8. The San Andreas fault, fairly quiet for now. We did have one earthquake off into the Barstow area, 3.6 coming in early this morning, relatively shallow. But for the most part, slightly elevated activity across the region today, it looks like, there in Southern Cal. Also, a little bit of movement along the creeping segment here of the San Andreas Fault. Looks like they did see a 2.8 earlier this morning, followed up by a few smaller quakes throughout the morning time period. The San Francisco Bay Area, 1.2 near Pacifica. Looks like about 1 o'clock in the morning. Also, a little bit further up north, we got a 2.3 just off the San Andreas Fault here, it looks like. And that one coming in about 12 kilometers deep there north of the bay. Northern California, further up north here into the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, we are seeing a little slight uptick, including the most recent 2.6 at 10 kilometers deep there about 2 o'clock in the morning. Remember, tremor activity is somewhat elevated still around the Victoria and the Seattle area. Yesterday's tremor map, let me show you guys here real quick. 557 epicenters of tremor along the Pacific Northwest, along the Cascadia subduction zone down in there where the vibrational activities occur between the two plates. Not volcanic in nature, but more plate tectonic in that type of dynamic setup there. Subduction zones are capable of producing some megaquakes, so tremor uptick currently taking place there in that region, which is common, but it's kind of been picking up here over the past 7-8 days or so. We'll cover that a little bit later tomorrow, or tonight, I should say, when we get a more updated map. This is from yesterday again. All right, not a whole lot of earthquake activity going on though. We got one earthquake in the just outside of Seattle, 1.6. Very small microquake down there at about 30 kilometers or so. So Yellowstone definitely been swarming overnight and yesterday. The USGS has managed to throw up about 15 earthquakes here. But it looks as though those are all up until about midnight last night. Doesn't look like they've gotten to anything today. But let's check out the Yellowstone map here and see if we got 16 earthquakes here on the map, which is occurring around the Grant Village area of Yellowstone National Park. So the 16 earthquakes are probably going to be just these thicker red lines, the more defined earthquakes here on the map. But I can guarantee you there's probably 16 times who knows what. There's probably well over 100 earthquakes listed on this graph from yesterday, this morning, and looks like it did end overnight sometime about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But we're still seeing a little bit of activity here throughout the early morning period. Nothing like what we were seeing yesterday and last night, though. So quite a bit of earthquake activity there at Yellowstone. 16 earthquakes according to the USGS. Eventually, they may account all of these earthquakes that we're seeing here. But as you notice, most of these earthquakes are well below the 2.0 threshold, with only one being reported there within that earthquake swarm. So kind of watching that. See what else we have across the area today. States further east. Looks like in Missouri area, Tennessee region, seen a 1.7 and a 1.6 yesterday. Nothing new today so far. The Alaska region, looks like a typical day up here right now. Only a couple smaller quakes northwest of Anchorage. No major movement across the Aleutian Trench, the Kuril-Kamchatka, or the trenches around the Philippine Plate. Let me see what we have here on the Earthquake 3D map. See if we're missing any info. Looks like there's a 3.1 around the Taiwan area right here. That's about the only noticeable earthquake in that region. General activity across the Indonesia area somewhat elevated as well today. Notice this cluster of movement here across the region, Java Trench included. Still no large earthquake activity upstream, but we are noticing some further deeper movements where that 7-pointer struck here a few days ago now here into the Java Sea area, the Java Trench, down dip into that subduction zone at 4.7 coming in 600 kilometers deep. So we'll continue to watch that area upstream for some larger movement. One earthquake off the coast here of, I was going to say Alaska. Australia, 4.9, coming in about 2 o'clock this morning, 10 kilometers deep. Don't really see too much activity out there. Little odd one. Let's see, a look at historical data, though. Looks like we have seen a little bit. It's been a while since I've seen anything out here. It's away from the plate boundary. But historically speaking, there's a small little area that has seen, looks like at least a 6 to 7.0 earthquake since about 1900 or so, with a couple other smaller quakes there in the map. Little strange one, almost a 5-pointer. All right, Banda Sea area around the Indonesia region, mostly 4s today. Definitely a good cluster of movement here across the region today. We'll keep an eye on that area. Back over here along the Kermadec Trench, we got a pretty good swarm of activity down here. Looks like some 5s and some 4s kicking off. All relatively shallow along the Kermadec Ridge. It's a layer above the Kermadec Trench, a subduction zone, of course, underneath this area. But this is the ridge region, seeing this very shallow earthquake activity in the 5 range. Definitely noteworthy to watch this area. Let me see here. A couple deeper movement quakes here around the Tonga Trench as well. We got the latest actually, a 4.2, 404 kilometers deep. A little separate cluster of swarming around Port Villa. Mostly fours. Pretty shallow earthquake activity. One thing I've definitely noticed is the increasing shallower movement here. Not seeing a whole lot of deeper movement quakes here across the subduction zones. That could be a good indicator of some surface quaking on the large scale about ready to happen. The question is where. It could be the Kermadec Trench. It could be up here around the Tonga Trench as well. Let's see what New Zealand has going on. GeoNet. There we go. Quick glance at the all magnitudes map here, including the unnoticeable, unfelt earthquakes. Mostly ones across the area here in the last hour or so. There's that 4.5. Looks like into the Kermadec Trench. A couple other smaller quakes taking place down there. Deep, though, into the Kermadec Trench area, 4.5, 3.3, 300 kilometers for this earthquake. Another 4.4, another 4.8. That's a lot of earthquake activity occurring. Now, there's a little uncertainty on the depth of these earthquakes that the GeoNet is reporting. These guys are showing 100 kilometers deep for each earthquake. I don't believe that's the case. The USGS is reporting this activity at 10 kilometers deep. So I don't know if it defaults to 100 kilometers on the GeoNet servers or not. But these are all, according to the USGS, defaulted here to the Kermadec Ridge at 10 kilometers at this level here. So be a whole different story if that was some deeper movement swarming going on there. But looks like some shallower earthquake activity popping off. All right, big island of Hawaii. Nothing in the last hour. Mostly some smaller microquake activity here around Pahala and the Kilauea volcano up here. A couple smaller quakes. No major activity going on, though, across the islands. Let's see here. Across this area of China, a little smaller movement. Northern China, the latest quake here, 4.3, coming in about 7 o'clock this morning. Turkey area seen some activity yesterday. Doesn't look like we're seeing too much large-scale events today. There's a 2.6 coming in as we speak there to the Turkey region. A little 3 and 2 activity across the Mediterranean today, although no major movement. The Atlantic Ocean looks fairly calm and clear of earthquakes. Nothing going on out there. It's been kind of odd lately with lack of activity. A little cluster of 3s down there into the South America region today as well. Seen a photo floating around here on social media of Mount St. Helens. There is a storm system coming in to the Pacific Northwest, bringing with it some moisture and also some winds. And this picture that I seen is what looks like some clouds or maybe steam around the Mount St. Helens area, but I believe it's strictly cloud activity up there. But yeah, if you happen to see it, more than likely that's what you're seeing, some clouds along with the storm system that's coming in. I was checking out the seismograph station here across Mount St. Helens, and there's not a whole lot of earthquake activity taking place here. A couple smaller microquakes over the last 24 hours, but that's about it. I don't see anything that would indicate any eruption activity. But let me check out the windy map here. Windy. Where did you go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Couldn't see it. So, yeah, there's a low-pressure system out here spinning off the Washington-Oregon coast there. We do have some wind gusts, I'm sure, kicking up around Mount St. Helens as well. So sometimes these upslope winds will trigger clouds forming around the volcano, depending on what the upper level wind speeds are like as well, and if there's available moisture, could get those lenticular type clouds, kind of look like pancakes or UFOs. Also, some lower type of clouds that could form around the summit area that may look like steam coming from the volcano. We've seen that numerous times around Mount Rainier, Mount Shasta, and stuff like that. So just know if this thing was steaming, so to speak, obviously it would probably be making a newsworthy event, and I'm sure the USGS would probably be the first ones to put it out. But there's no eruption or imminent eruption there from Mount St. Helens. But there is definitely a low pressure system offshore here, bringing in some further rain and snow today and tomorrow. All right, let's see what we got here for space weather activity. Well, 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 50, 10% chance for an X flare. Looking at these massive sunspots here today, shows quite a bit of degrading across the southern hemisphere of the sun with this trailing of the sunspots. It was looking fairly promising here a few days back when they first appeared off the southeastern limb of the sun. Now they're just they're fairly stable. It doesn't look like too much activity will be taking place here across the southern region. Sunspots up here to the north about the same. The sunspot is pretty much splitting into two separate cores here. Earlier it was, a couple days ago, it was fairly tight here within this region, looking somewhat promising for some flaring, but that's not the case right now with that sunspot either. And looking around the bend, a couple other sunspots on the eastern limb of the sun, but they do not look all that promising there, folks, for any major flaring. There is, let's see what we got. We got a little slight flaring here between these two little solar cores, but it doesn't look like much. I think if anything, that's some low-grade C flare activity kicking up right now. Let's see here. Yep, looks like what I just do here. I'm back out of here. Looks like some low-grade C flare activity popping up currently as we speak. But other than that, things calming down. Kind of kicks up a little bit, looks promising, and then all of a sudden, once these sunspots face the Earth, they behave and remain stable. But either way, we'll continue to watch this. It's very active in terms of the number of sunspots, but they are, they're all fairly stable here, folks. All right, let's see. Let me check the Storm Prediction Center here today with the severe weather. It doesn't look like there's too much severe weather potential. General thunderstorm activity chances around the Pacific Northwest and areas out in western Texas, western Oklahoma as well. I know these folks need the rain badly. They are in extreme drought, so that is good news for them to see any type of precipitation out there. Look at the weather models here. Precipitation and the snow. There's some of that scattered rain activity across western Texas and in the portions of the panhandle. Excuse me. Hopefully they get a little bit more than that. Pacific Northwest, relatively wet and unstable up there. As we go towards the end of April, I'm not seeing anything major setting up out here. Again, this is way out. We'll have to watch this and see how this comes about. Looks like still remaining wet out into the portions of Texas. That'd be good news, folks, if they can get quite a bit of rain this spring. Put a little damper on the drought. All right, let's see what else is there. I think that's about it, folks. I'm not for sure if I'm going to get out and do any more yard work today. It's a little bit cooler, cloudy. 59 degrees here in Northern California with that incoming system bringing in some rain and snow to the Pacific Northwest. We're left with basically some colder weather and some clouds. So I may wait until it warms up a little bit more to get out there and finish up the yard. So I don't know. see what the day has in store. Either way, we'll be kind of sitting here monitoring the activity. Southern California here, just looking at this graph, a whole lot of spiky earthquake activity occurring down there around the Elsinore fault system, it looks like. A little bit of it being reported here across the area, 2.6 in the last hour, but there's definitely some type of swarm going on here in the area. All right, folks, we'll continue to watch it, monitor it, and of course, live stream is up and running. We will catch you guys back here sometime tonight, unless something major happens. Enjoy your Monday. Yeah, take care and stay safe out there.